Wrestling games have been around since I'm not sure, probably the 80s, with titles like WWF WrestleMania for the NES, and more notable titles like WCW NWO Revenge for the Nintendo 64, or SmackDown Here Comes the Pain for the PS2. These are games that have made their cozy little spot in wrestling games history. We all know that SmackDown vs. Raw 07 was one of the best for the SVR era games, and WWF No Mercy stands undefeated atop them all. But what about the modern era of wrestling games? With WWE 2K23 being a success and once again showing us that the future of wrestling games may be a bright one, I figured I'd take a look back at the WWE 2K series and do a fun ranking video on what ones I thought were the best. And I mean, hey, if you don't agree with the list, at least it passed the time for a bit while we all wait for AEW Fight Forever to never come out. Yeah, it was gonna be the worst. It was never not going to be the worst one. I won't spend too much time here because there's nothing left to say about this game that hasn't been said. It was a buggy disaster, and I had actually skipped out on buying this iteration of the 2K series. So I actually had to go out of my way to buy a copy of this game to capture footage. But when I went to the PlayStation Store to buy it, it wasn't there! So I checked the Microsoft Store, and it wasn't there! This game has been wiped clean from the face of the earth, banished to the Shadow Realm. So I had to buy a physical copy off of eBay. Granted, the game wasn't that expensive, but if that doesn't show you how bad this game was, I don't know what will. We never have to think or talk about this stinky hot pile of garbage game ever again. Let's move on. Aw, man. I'm glad nowadays we all see WWE All-Stars for the gem that it was. It's truly another wrestling game that I would put up there with the greats. So much like everyone else, when I saw the announcement for 2K Battlegrounds, I said, oh my god, it's All-Stars 2, it's here! However, that really wasn't the case. It was a fun arcadey style game to pass the time while we all waited for 2K22 and took a break from the simulation style of wrestling we all come to know and love on certain days and hate every other Tuesday. There was potential for something special here, but it feels, like I said, made to pass by the time rather than to be timeless. Granted, I don't think 2K planned on this being the next big thing, nor did they want it to. Adding annoying microtransactions to get certain characters definitely didn't help the game's case. The game was fun, and even though it lacked in some areas like its depth of the combat and options within the creation suite, it's a solid, fun wrestling game that anyone can pick up and play, which really added to it. I'd move it a bit higher on the list, but I prefer my shoes the way they are rather than being made of cement. This is the beginning of the meh era of the WWE 2K games for me. We all like WWE 2K17, but if you were to ask somebody what their favorite 2K era WWE game is, it won't be this one, I bet. It's not bad, but it felt bare bones as far as wrestling games go. But that's not to say effort wasn't put into the game. The graphics were updated on some of the characters, I think. And no longer is there a showcase mode. We now have nothing. And that replaced with something new, just gone. It did give us some new move animations, and they added promo segments for the universe mode in my career. But it's just features that ended up getting removed later anyways. If you weren't interested in my career, then there wasn't much new here for you to enjoy, game mode wise, except its new yearly additions to the roster and backstage brawls. Was it bad? No, not at all. Was it a little too simulated to the point where you can mash the punch button as fast as you can and only punch one time? Yes. All in all, solid. To clarify, I loved this game. I know! I had a great time playing this game. When this first came out, much like everyone else, I had my shiny new PS4 and was ready to play my first wrestling game on it. And when I booted it up for the first time, my candy and Dr. Pepper filled heart shot out of my chest from how in love with this game I was. It looked fantastic on that gen's hardware. We were introduced to my career mode, which is always fun for about an hour until you get bored and decide to have some real fun in the universe. No Road to WrestleMania or 30 Years of WrestleMania mode, as we're now given the new Showcase mode, which followed John Cena and CM Punk and Hustle Loyalty Disrespect. Then there was Best Friends, Bitter Enemies, which let us play as Shawn Michaels and Triple H. It's number 7 on this list because of the potential and foundation it laid for the games to come. This list only has one true bad game, that being He Who Shall Not Be Named at the number 10 spot. 2K15 has a lot of charm being the first game for the next-gen consoles on PS4 and Xbox One, also being the first wrestling game to feature Sting since TNA Impact. So as far as it goes and being the first game to bridge that console generation gap, it's alright. 2K18 didn't have massive changes from 17, however the changes that were there were very welcome. The simulation style fighting was much more fine-tuned and didn't feel so heavy and slow in between punches anymore. One of the bigger changes to the game was in my career mode. Are you tired of navigating never-ending menus and go to your match, rinse, repeat? Well, guess what? Now you can walk! I'm sure most of us welcome the idea of a more immersive career mode, really putting you in the game as you walk around backstage through different venues, rather than feeling as though you're just doing a brisk jog through the area. Regardless, 2K18 was an improvement from 17, just not as big of an improvement I had hoped for in the next installment in the series. The perfect way to follow 2K15. It had a great showcase mode following Steve Austin's career through the wrestling business from stunning to stone cold. I love the film grain during matches from the 80s and 90s during the showcase, and I mean, come on. What wrestling fan doesn't want to play Stone Cold and go around stomping a mud hole in everyone's ass? We all love the Attitude Era, and reliving it through Stone Cold was just awesome. The gameplay was fine-tuned and not so sluggish and buggy from 15, but still has that ragdoll feel from certain moves to create goofy moments or even epic ones. It brought in more match types and a sleeker-looking UI. However, it did give us limited reversals, which in theory isn't terrible, because it'll give someone who's not so good at timing a reversal a fighting chance against the Chad veteran 2K player. But between that and the stamina meters making characters tired, some matches are halted to a crawl. Don't get me wrong though, I absolutely love pulling off a tired finisher. Come on, who doesn't? 2K16 had an identity. It had personality, it fixed many errors from the year prior, and was a bona fide proper next installment. There was plenty of speculation from me going into this game when I first got it. Was it going to be another glitchy mess like 2K20? Or was it going to be great? Was it going to be good at all? And in my hopes, it was good. The graphics were amazing, the gameplay was the best it's been in a while. This game was waxed, polished, and lemon-scented, giving us the exact thing we needed to keep the series going strong. Say what you like about having finishers being one button or two, but having heavy strikes, light strikes, and the new grappling system added depth to the gameplay in the most streamlined way, which easily could have been a disaster. The creation suite is one of the best I've seen in a very long time. The new body types, hair and clothing pieces are great, and you really have a difference between, let's say, a 7-foot tall super heavyweight and a 5'10" light heavyweight by giving us 4 classes with Technician, Striker, High Flyer, and Powerhouse, which sets the perfect ground floor for making your created character your own, and not feel like every other one you make. Now, I'm sure if you haven't been able to tell from this video, I haven't been the biggest fan of the My Career mode in these games. However, My Career in 2K22 is really fun. It doesn't feel like you're winning a match and then reading a cliche text box that anyone else would get when they play it. It feels like a fun, genuine story with choices that matter throughout the game. Its showcase mode was great too, following Rey Mysterio's career from early on in WCW to his current years in the WWE. It had been a minute since a wrestling game had a personality like 2K22 did, rightfully putting itself at number 4. Here we are. Top 3. I'm sure you've been keeping track of what's left, so let's get down to brass tacks here and make the harder decisions that we all know we have to make. This was a hard one. Very hard. I put hours into this game. My Career has cutscenes, a fun story with voice acting from other wrestlers, and a full 2K showcase featuring Daniel Bryan's rise to WWE stardom. This game took what 2K17 and 18 was trying to do and did the Patara fusion, creating the perfect amalgamation of what a simulation wrestling game should be. Sleek, fluid, and fast-paced. But oh, it gets better. The creation suite is impeccable, which is what really got me into community creations, because back when online services were still active, people were making modern-day Picassos with this character creator. It's an incredible wrestling game that feels like years of honing and tweaking finally found a sweet spot to give us a solid banger. Throughout this ranking video, I've mentioned improving and tweaking a lot, which is what long series like wrestling and sports games should be about, always improving, tweaking, and fine-tuning. Which leads me to the number 2 spot. WWE 2K23. Everything that put 2K19 over the rest is done better here. Not by a mile, but in small yet noticeable ways. My Rise is a whole story mode in itself, with 2 backgrounds to choose from, plus the choices you make in it all feel like your own. Creation feels like it did in 19, with people making incredible creations to share. Having John Cena for its showcase, yet having a twist with you playing as all the people that bested him was a really fun change. Graphically, they've all looked great, but 2K23 is awesome to look at. And with everything being built upon what was done in 2K22, it just gives it that slight edge over 2K19, making it number 2 on my list. Now, I'm sure some of you could make a hell of a case as to why 19 should be number 2 or maybe even 1. But to me, 2K has clearly been putting in effort to make these games killer again, and I think it shows big time here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the number 1 spot. Can I get a drum roll, please, fellas? The number 1 spot is WWE 2K14. I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming, and I'm sure many of you rolled your eyes because you're like, come on, this game is ancient. It looks it. You're just copying everyone else's opinion to avoid the mob outside your house. I know the game was made by THQ and licensed by 2K, but it bears the 2K name, and I think it deserves to be on this list. And let me say, this game rocks, and I'm gonna tell you why. This game was stacked from top to bottom with game modes and things to do. Our story mode for this game was called 30 Years of WrestleMania, and there was so much to do in it. There's Hulkamania Runs Wild, New Generation, the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, and the Universe Era. Each chapter containing a plethora of WrestleMania matches to go through, all with that signature film grain to take you right back to the era they were broadcast. There was historical objectives you could complete, rewarding you with arenas and more wrestlers for your ever-growing roster. Then there was the streak mode. Oh man. With the streak mode, you could either play as The Undertaker, defending the streak as wrestlers would come to the ring one after another, trying to take you down as you see how far you could run the gauntlet as Undertaker gets more worn down. And then there was Defeat the Streak, where God help you as you pick your preferred superstar and try to take on the hardest AI Undertaker ever. Your score was even saved to the server online, so you could see how your run fared to everyone else's. There was Create a Finisher, Create a Story, and so much more. There's practically any match type you could think of to do in the universe on a regular exhibition, as it was filled with matches from a standard matchup to Inferno matches. Even in the matches, they had instant replays, the rope still shook from impacts from slams, which was only recently brought back. And I don't know what it was with the camera position or how far back the audience was. Maybe it's even the marquee stating what event you're at. But presentation-wise, it all looked just so rad. The game always had something for you to do when you went back to it, and if that doesn't make it timeless, or at least put it up there with the greats, then I don't know what would. So that's it, everyone. My personal list on where the WWE 2K series games rank in my eyes. I hope you guys enjoyed, because this was a blast to come back and revisit these games. Let me know where you place these games yourself, and if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, maybe even subscribe if you'd like to see more. We try to upload every other day, and as always, thanks for watching, guys.